few weeks ago, I made a video about how to make villains better for your campaign. Today, we're going to go through the process of making a villain using those same steps. Let's get started. So villains are really helpful because they give your character something to do, they give your character something to push back against. So what I thought would be helpful today is to actually go through the process of laying out those rules specifically to one character. We're going to be creating a villain that can be used in a Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition campaign. Now, these steps again can be used for any system, but for the purposes of this exercise, we're going to use the Dungeons & Dragons setting. So think 13th century Europe. So Trevor was a beet farmer, and he didn't have a lot of money, and neither did his family. So when he was younger, his mother died of disease, and at one point, when he was about 16 years old, his remaining brothers and his father were pressed into service by the local magistrate in order to fight for the glory of their hometown, Townsburg, against the neighboring town of Shireville. The names are really inconsequential. When Trevor's family, when they got pressed into the militia, were in a battle, they got killed. Trevor blamed the magistrate for putting his family in harm's way. The magistrate claimed that he needed people in order to fight in his army. Trevor thought that the magistrate was recruiting people who couldn't pay their taxes in order to get them off land that he could then give to other people that would be able to pay the taxes. Trevor creates a motivation because his family's been killed, unjustly in his opinion. So what he ends up doing is swearing vengeance against the magistrate. That motivation creates sympathy for Trevor because his family was killed unjustly in a war that he really didn't have anything to do with. He's a low person on the totem pole, economically speaking, and his family was killed because somebody on a higher rung of the economic social status ladder pressed his family into service. This trauma in Trevor's past creates motivation for him to be moved into action. So Trevor leaves his family farm, no longer being able to pay the taxes because he can't work the land all by himself, and he no longer has anybody or any reason to stay. His entire family is dead. So Trevor leaves his beet farm and moves into the actual city of Townsburg. Now, once he's there, he doesn't really know how to make ends meet. He's a beet farmer, right? So he tries to do the whole Aladdin thing where he ends up trying to pick and steal some food on the side of the road and inevitably runs afoul of some shopkeepers and maybe even the Thieves Guild. The Thieves Guild, finding Trevor in trouble, are like, okay, lad, we'll bring you in. Come on, we'll actually teach you how to survive. Why? That's not important for this. The point is that Trevor is now a member of the Thieves Guild because he's low level on the totem pole. Low level farmer to low level Thieves Guild, not that much of a jump because he's a bit of a disenfranchised person at this point and he has an axe to grind. Trevor's exceptionality comes into the fact that he grew up as a farmer and he's really, really hardy. Trevor's also very strong-willed, but at the same time, what makes him really exceptional is the fact that he can take a lot of physical punishment. His physical exception comes from the fact that he grew up doing really hard manual labor. On top of all that, when his family was murdered, his exceptionalism also started to move into his motivation for vengeance. Very, very focused on vengeance, and he's very, very physically tough. Those are the things that separate him from the rest of the Thieves Guild members. He has a reason to be there, and he can back it up by the fact that he can take a lot of punishment. Over the course of the next several years, Trevor works his way up through the Thieves Guild, doing smaller jobs and then bigger jobs. Because of his exceptional physical abilities, Trevor's able to accomplish a lot of other goals that other people wouldn't be able to do. The same thing can also be attributed to the fact that he's very motivated to create this vengeance upon the magistrate. He's able to accomplish a lot of jobs and move up the ranks very quickly. But all the time that he's actually been successful, he's been really focused on sticking it to the magistrate. Now, as Trevor moves up the ranks of the Thieves Guild, he starts to accomplish goals that are really detrimental to the town of Townsburg. That whole area is starting to become awash with crime because Trevor has become an exceptional criminal. Because of his whole focus on actually doing harm to the lords of the city, he develops a nickname, Lord Trevor. And Lord Trevor, everybody knows, has it out for the magistrate, but nobody can seem to find him because he's associated with the Thieves Guild. While he doesn't want to die before he exacts his goal, he doesn't necessarily have a lot of sense of self-preservation. He wants to exact vengeance on the magistrate, but because he's so physically tough, he can throw himself into very dangerous situations and come out on top. This creates a bit of a reputation for Lord Trevor with the idea that he doesn't care if he dies, so he becomes even more scary to the people of Townsburg and the members of the Thieves Guild. It's important to keep in mind that villains require flaws, and Trevor's no exception. During his time with the Thieves Guild, he's used those opportunities doing smaller and gradually larger jobs to learn more about the magistrate and his organization. Also, his family, because in Trevor's mind, he wants to exact revenge not just on the magistrate, but on the magistrate's family. In his mind, that's just. The magistrate killed his family, so Lord Trevor wants to take vengeance on the magistrate's family. Because the magistrate wasn't a good person. He did exactly what Lord Trevor thought he was doing. He was pressing people into service that couldn't pay their taxes. The magistrate's not a good person, but Lord Trevor's no hero. Lord Trevor goes through the whole process of becoming a very accomplished thief, a very accomplished criminal. And in those exploits, he's desecrating the economy of Townsburg. He's terrifying the local populace. In an effort to make the magistrate have less credibility, he goes through the process of targeting the guards that work for the magistrate and keep the city safe, finding all the businesses that the magistrate has a personal interest in and destroying them. If they're caravans, then he goes after them. Everybody knows that if you're associated with the magistrate, Lord Trevor's coming after you. He's driving business out of Townsburg and bringing more criminal exploits into Townsburg. At a certain point, he starts to create enough money where he can start influencing maybe the magistrate's opponents. Maybe Lord Trevor even reaches out to Shireville, the people who had the army that killed his family. He blames the magistrate for that. Lord Trevor is so focused on the magistrate, that works into the part of his flaw. He's very focused on exacting vengeance on one person. In his mind, the ends justify the means. If that means that he has to hurt people inside of Townsburg, he may not even see that. If that means that he has to work with the people that ran the army that actually killed his family, he doesn't see that. Remember, he has a flaw. That's the really big part that separates a villain from a hero or even an anti-hero. Anti-heroes have flaws, heroes sometimes don't, but villains must always have a flaw. It's important to know that Trevor doesn't want to just destroy the magistrate's life. He wants the magistrate to suffer just the way that he suffered when his family died. So if that means that he needs to target all of the people around the magistrate, then that's his goal. Trevor's still alive. The magistrate's still alive too. And in Lord Trevor's mind, the magistrate can't suffer if he's dead. Not really an altruistic goal here, but remember, we're creating a villain. Now, the thing that's the keystone element of any villain is what they want. The villain wants something and they cannot have it. Lord Trevor, in this case, he wants to make the magistrate suffer. And he's doing an okay job, but he still hasn't managed to kill the magistrate's family or completely destroy the magistrate's life. Because in this scenario, the magistrate, again, not a great guy, but still somebody who has a responsibility for maintaining a city that he's responsible for. Lord Trevor, no such animal. Really just trying to take the hurt to the magistrate. Even though he's a prominent member of the Thieves Guild, he hasn't been completely successful yet. That's what creates a villain. The fact that they have a goal, and then for your story, they can't get it yet. And for your villain, whenever you're creating something, their goal is the thing that really fills in all the other gaps for all of the other parts of the campaign. Now, what that is for Trevor, make the magistrate suffer. What that is for your villain, that's up to you. Now, Lord Trevor, he's not necessarily the smartest person. He didn't have a lot of formal education, or maybe even any formal education, but he was raised by the streets in this scenario. He was given the opportunity to learn from a thieves guild that really took him in and maybe showed him the ropes of how to survive in this environment of Townsburg, and really gave him the expertise to be able to learn how to do extortion, run blackmail, deal in illicit substances, stolen goods. All of these skills that Trevor has are good, but how he solves problems really comes back to what makes him exceptional. Because again, very tough, but also very focused on vengeance. So if Trevor has a problem that he can solve, he might go about it in the way that, if I even need to solve this problem, will it get me closer to my goal? And if the answer is yes, he probably goes about it in the way that a member of the Thieves Guild would. That means that he's going to try to keep his operations secure, but if that means that he can just run through a problem and intimidate somebody with the ability that he has to take physical punishment, then that's going to help him solve a problem in a way that he becomes familiar with. So again, knowing how Lord Trevor solves problems is a really great step in being able to figure out how he's going to interact with the world around him and how he's going to formulate plans that will help him achieve his goal. Now, Lord Trevor's evil plan is really what comes down to how you get to run him as a storyteller, because if you remember from the other video, knowing what he's going to do on a session-by-session basis is really important. So in this example, you have your party group, say Finn and the Merry Marauders. Okay, say that Finn and the Merry Marauders have been hired by the magistrate to stop Lord Trevor. Great. They don't really know anything about Lord Trevor other than what the magistrates told them. So if Finn and the rest of the party want to go and directly focus on Lord Trevor, you already know that Lord Trevor is planning to kidnap the magistrate's son. So if you know that Trevor is going to do that, and you've already drawn up an idea for how Trevor might do that, then what happens if Finn and the rest of his party decide that, okay, yeah, we've been hired to go ahead and attack Lord Trevor, but, Shuffles the Barbarian wants to go start a pit fighting ring. If that's what your players want to do, then again, as the storyteller, you get the opportunity to let them do what they want, but still, Lord Trevor is out there and they've been hired to take him down. Shuffles the Barbarian wins a bunch of fights, the party's having a good time, your players are having a good time, and that's okay. But Lord Trevor's still doing what he wants to do in the background. He's still going after the magistrate's son, and then Shuffles the Barbarian, he's winning a bunch of money, but oh no, the magistrate's son, who might even show up regularly at the bar that Shuffles decided to start a pit fighting ring at, maybe he gets kidnapped in the bar, or maybe he gets kidnapped on his way out of the bar. That all can happen. You can still have that kidnapping attempt happen in a place that the party can be aware of, or maybe it happens where the party's not aware of it, and then the party gets called before the magistrate and told, you were told to bring down Lord Trevor and now he's kidnapped my son. The adventure has another aspect to it now that has higher stakes. So instead of just taking down Lord Trevor, they have to rescue the magistrate's son. All of that gets to happen if you know what Trevor's goals are and you have a map for how he plans to accomplish them over maybe the next few sessions. So that's all I've got. I wanted to go through the process of showing you how I would create a villain like Lord Trevor using some of the rules that I talked about in the other video. If you found this helpful, let me know in the comments section here or on Instagram or Twitter. I really want to know what you think, or if you go through a similar process through creating villains for your campaign. Thank you so much for watching, and I really appreciate the opportunity to actually sort of flesh out some of the ideas that I've been talking about on a more theoretical basis in other videos. The thing about villains, and any character that you're going to be creating for your campaign, is that it's never going to be perfect the first time. Each time you make a new character or think up a design for a new NPC or a villain or anything that you want to put in your game, it's going to be what it is the first time. And then the next time you create a villain, it's going to be different. And that's okay, because you're going to have learned from the things that came in the past. Don't be afraid to jump in, because I've created a lot of villains that aren't really that interesting in retrospect. But the fact is, I keep making them over time, and I keep enjoying the ones that I make when I make them, because I want to make sure that as I create these villains and as I create these characters, I'm giving myself a chance to grow. And that's what I want from you. I want you to grow as a storyteller. So no matter how you feel like this villain is, it's good enough for right now. And the next one you make is going to be even better. Thank you so much for watching. Be kind, take care of yourself, and have fun adventuring.